I'm so happy to sit here with Peter Sondergaard. Welcome to Corporate Headquarters.
Thank you, Inge. Yes. Thank you.
So you have a long experience in technology and management. If you can elaborate a bit about patterns that you see on successful companies implementing technology. What are the patterns that you see for good implementers?
Well, a couple of things. First, I think the fact that the organization has thought about the digital capabilities that it has across the organization, not just in IT, but organizations really need to focus on developing things like data skills, things like digital strategic planning, technology planning among all managers, not just an isolated set of managers. So digital capabilities is the one thing. The other thing is the organization has made technology key to everything that happens. But also accepted that technology has to be invisible because it has to be everywhere, but invisible. And then I think the third thing is that the organization really thinks in digital business models, is that they know they have to change their business model. And the entire executive team is very clear on what the vision is for the organization going forward and how technology is central to it and not just a adjacency that happens to be a project that they run. So those are probably the three things that I would say really distinguish successful organizations.
So technology is not just supporting, but it's an integrated part of the whole business.
It's basically the business.
It's the business.
But you can't see it because it's everywhere and therefore becomes invisible.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. GRC is now an integrated part of every business, governance, risk and compliance. What advice would you give to companies and technology providers to become sensitive to users' needs when it comes to designing those systems and also in crafting core value-added system for governance, risk and compliance?
I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan really of how he thought about user design and customer experience as being sort of the core aspect of the product. I think the GRC market could, and I think people that are successful with this really have the gene of Steve Jobs in the project and in the way they think about things, is that you design it from the user, not from the process. The process is important. The regulatory, the legal environments are incredibly important, and that is the reason, the raison d'être of systems like this. But I think we need to increase this dose of thinking about the user experience and plan that better in the systems. And I think organizations that do that going forward will be much more successful. And I think we've seen this. It's not a new observation either. We've seen this in large-scale implementations of systems over the last 40 years of the computer industry. Is that the successful implementations really focus on how does this make it better for the people that are using it. We have seen so many examples of, for example, hospital systems being implemented where nobody actually asked the nurses or the doctors whether or not they could use the system. And so I think this becomes more and more important as we get to systems that are human-centric and focus on augmenting human decision-making. And therefore acting as if we know the human in the system is therefore important.
So bringing in the user part is important, though. Do you believe in this off-the-shelf system that you can buy one system that is you can implement for all businesses across the world, or does it have to be customized? What do you think?
I think the nirvana of just an implementation that fits everything probably remains nirvana. It's a goal we move towards asymptotically. I think that this concept of composability, the ability of organizations to put together things in a way that we today have learned from playing with Lego blocks is really the road for the future. Because everybody may have the same tasks. They may have in countries the same regulatory environment, but organizations are living entities. And so we are not all the same. And you need composability, therefore, in what we do with our business process and the technology that is part of that business process.
So maybe the best that we can achieve is customized off the shelf in a way, build on a off the shelf product, but customized to that specific customer. So,
I think this customization, I use the word composability, but it is customization using standard building blocks, which would be, I think, where the world is moving, and not just within the framework of an organizational structure, but really the organizational structure's ecosystem. And so the value chains that define how we operate in an industry or in a process will all be about composability. That also allows us to much better adapt to the way humans act and the way humans interact. It will be able to reflect better the fact that there are customs, there are different ways in which organizations are structured around the world, because we human beings are actually different in many ways we operate, and software needs to reflect that. We should not adapt to software. Software should adapt to how we are as humans.
I'm very glad you said that, because that's also one of my key points, that the software has to adapt, to us, and not we have to adapt to how the software is created. Because if that is not matched, you just have to fight through the organization and with the organization, like, just do like this because the software is built like this. It's much better if the system or software can adjust to how you actually work and how you are supposed to work.
Yes. And also the fact that nothing is constant. And so if software is rigid and the process therefore becomes rigid, it doesn't actually accept the fact that organizations want to grow, they want to change. And so adaptability, composability, customizing things becomes important, because you change. Tomorrow you will be different, and the software needs to be able to adapt to that.
And if you then have systems that are more like Lego blocks that you can customize, and not kind of you need to code it, and because coding is something that makes things rigid again, because all of a sudden you have to change, and then your company become a development company, just to kind of facilitate the changes and the agility that you need in that kind of software application.
Yes, and in fact, just to stress the one word you used, which is it becomes a development company, is that in essence it becomes a development company using very scarce resources of developers that are specialists in that. And that runs into one of the biggest problems that businesses has today, which is the availability of developers and resources to deal with the complexity of evolving business. And so the only way we can solve that is to get more people involved in developing, in fact, people that are not developers, but really understand the business, this concept of citizen developers. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of this evolution of software development into low-code and no-code based environments, which is also where Corp-O-Talk has gone with its solution, because that, in my mind, truly helps with solving a huge business problem that exists today, is we don't have enough developers. It deals with the requirement of resilience and of agility of businesses today, and therefore allows us to actually create the flexibility for what we need in the future. And so low code, no code is an evolving thing, but it is, I think, critical to solving some very critical things that we have.
So when it comes to this low code, no code, do you see how do you see Corp-O-Talk in that perspective of what Corp-O-Talk is solving today?
Well, I think based on my experience with Corp-O-Talk, that it is in essence a business-focused platform that has an underpinning, which is a low-code, no-code kind of environment that allows you to compose the business processes and the regulatory processes that are required for a particular business. So I think Corp-O-Talk is an organization that really, I think, has taken this aspect of human business decision-making to the next level, and will, I think, be able to use this to really change the way, the agility and the resilience of the businesses that today use the platform. So I think it is right in line with the trends that exist, and I think has great opportunity going forward.
Yeah. The interconnectivity between risk, strategy, compliance, governance, project, portfolio, finance. Are you seeing any other tool that kind of connects all these business domain together in one kind of business management platform? Have you seen anything like it?
No, I haven't really seen the totality of that anywhere. I think that there are ambitions of software providers out there to address this market. But I also think it has to be said that the maturity of businesses is still evolving to be able to adopt and incorporate those environments. You have to accept that the availability of software for managers and very decision-oriented processes is still a frontier that is evolving. Whereas we have sort of the standard processes of companies really well mapped out with the large software players, this is an opportunity to create the next generation of the new Salesforce.com or the new
for managers.
For managers, yes. And I think there are very few out there that have this integrated environment available at this stage.
So coming back to organizations that try to develop themselves, they try to customize with hard coding things, they lack the agility. Is it in your experience, is it more the bigger companies, they have more resources that go into this development trap and become a development company, or is this happening in smaller companies as well as big companies?
I think every company, in essence, irrespective of size and also irrespective of industry, and for that matter of fact, or whether a business or a public sector organization, really have the same challenges. The ability to address the challenges are different. And I'm not saying that big companies necessarily, it's easier to address problems because they have more money. They have the rigidness of the structures. But I think the successful organizations, irrespective of size, are the ones that really have focused on this aspect of evolving the competency of the organization. Increasingly, I believe our limitation is not technology. It shouldn't really either be developers.
No.
It is not necessarily the availability of money, because while money is always scarce, there is money for this. The issue really is the competency and the capability of the organization.
And maybe the mindset as well.
And therefore the mindset, yes, is I think the biggest challenge. So companies have been excellent at implementing large-scale projects. They're great at the aspect of execution of projects, whether it's a small organization or a big organization. But when it comes to continuous digital thinking and execution, that's where we don't have the right capabilities available, because we're all stuck in our old mindset, old thinking, which is project thinking and not continuous execution. And frankly, sometimes we're also unfairly treating middle management in organizations with short-term objectives, which means that they freeze up the ability of the organization to actually change more rapidly.
So it's not a project; it's a process, a continuous process.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say it's even a continuous mindset.
Oh, continuous mindset as well.
Is basically that we have to have a continuous digital mindset.
Yeah. So where do you get these kind of that kind of mindset from? Is it through readings, conferences, or what's your best advice to get this kind of digital mindset and take it in the steps from where they are and grow into the whole digital transformation journey? Because what I see is if companies get it from paper into documents or whatever, they say we've digitalized, we have done a digital transformation and all that stuff, but it's so much more.
Yeah, I think so. I think it has to do with it's a question of we should all be continuous learners. We have this thinking that learning is all about something that you do in a particular part of your life, and then you kind of stop. With this new challenge that has been in front of us for some years, digital transformation, we constantly need to learn. I mean, you and I need to become better at being data scientists, or at least having a mindset of thinking about data. Me probably more than you. We need to be able to understand the opportunities with technology, even if I'm head of marketing, or I'm head of corporate risk, or I am the CFO. This is at par with everybody being great at doing people management, or knowing that is core. As a manager, I need to know how to do people management. I need to know how to do budget management. Well, now we have a set of capabilities that we all need that are new that we need to focus on, and that's a continuous development process. And that is not something that you necessarily only learn at a conference.
No.
That's a mindset thing. It is a question of I myself understand that I need to continuously evolve. I then also believe that it then becomes important that the organization itself recognizes this. So they need to understand, almost from a benchmark perspective, where do I stand now? What is my capabilities if I actually benchmark myself on all my managers? And then where do I want to go? And then decide there are 2 or 3 critical capabilities or competencies that if I don't address those across all managers, I will actually not be able to make the transformation. And very few organizations have actually done that. They think by doing a large-scale project, like for example, I'm doing a large-scale supply chain integration project, and I've now become digital in my supply chain, therefore I am now digital. We all know that's not true. Because it's filling out the little holes in between the building blocks, the Lego blocks that allow you to take the entirety, and in this way sort of think digital, not just act as a digital project.
So we've heard about digital twins, and in my kind of experience, you have a lot of digital twin where they make digital twin of the physical world. But you also have this digital twin of an organization where you actually describe the whole management system, how it interlinks the processes, and how you actually execute and kind of make it run. I've kind of seen a lot of enterprise architecture tools. They go into the IT department, they do the mapping about capabilities, systems, processes, etc., and make a nice blueprint. But do you see Corp-O-Talk play that role of making the blueprints alive and make that digital twin of your organization, map things, use the Lego blocks in order to construct that digital twin of your management system?
Yes. I think that's where Corp-O-Talk somewhat is, or at least from a vision perspective, definitely is. And I think it does fall in line with kind of the 3 things that make up society. And so most people talk about digital twins, and then 90% of people sort of their eyes glaze over because they don't really know, they don't care, because they don't work in supply chain, they don't work in manufacturing, so they don't. But if you actually start with thinking about this from a business perspective, is you have products and services, you have processes, and you have humans, right? What we are looking at is there is a complete shift in terms of creating autonomous products that are sustainable, circular in how they operate. And for that, technology is important, and digital twin is an element of it. There is composable processes that map out the entire organization as a digital twin organization, and this is where Corp-O-Talk plays. But then there's a third leg, and the chair doesn't work until the third leg is also there, is that there is in essence also an evolution towards a digital human. And we should not forget that we are also, there's another trend that Corp-O-Talk and others have to fit into, which is the evolution towards digital humans, or what the world has currently deemed to be called the metaverse. That in fact, you will therefore end up with a world in which you have technology providers that operate with a digital human in mind, technology providers, aka, for example, Corp-O-Talk, that operate with the digital organization and its processes in mind, and then organizations, software providers that operate with digital products in mind, aka elements of what is digital twin, but also the whole evolution of robotics and where we move. That's the 30-year evolution of digital
that will come.
That
has been.
Corp-O-Talk is basically right in the middle of.
So can you just give me some examples of this digital human? Is it robots?
Well, I described this linear.
Yeah.
And in essence, and this is a challenge to you, by the way, is come up with a graphic that describes it circular. Because I would say digital human is the remapping of us into a digital world. And we see examples of that practically today in the ability to try on clothes digitally, the existence of fashion brands in gaming universes or in meta universes like on a Roblox platform. And ultimately, yes, you could see our personality, our digital self, our NFT of us move into a robot that then in fact became, our personality, but acting not just digitally as in a virtual environment, but could actually act as being inside a robot. That is clearly within the scope of what can or could be done with products that are on the market today.
Wow. Do you think your wife would like Peter Sondergaard in a robotic mode?
That's a very good question.
I think my wife would see different between doing a robotic and myself.
Yeah. I
hope so. I hope so at least.
And this whole debate obviously opens up for the aspect of ethical, the identification of self, laws, and so. I mentioned this also because for your clients, this is not inconceivable to think of when they do implementations. Because if you look at how people view laws differently and therefore regulatory things differently when they behave in a virtual environment compared to the real environment, there will eventually be questions around how do you regulate this? So eventually some of this will fall in under the purview of risk, compliance, and governance.